Hi, everyone. We are live right now, even though it says setting
We
up
are.
live. Okay, well, I don't know
We're
what's
there.
going on the back end of Facebook. Um, so happy Friday, everyone. Week 9,999 of social isolation, wherever you are. I hope it's a beautiful day. We are thrilled to have you here today for the very last installment of the Next Normal Preparing Nonprofits for a Post Pandemic World. And if you've been following along, we've done five of these. I had to count in my head, and we've had some incredible conversations. So I'm Julia Campbell. I am half of the nonprofit social media nerds, and I'm a digital marketing strategist and consultant, teacher of all things digital and marketing and fundraising. And my co-host, as always, the co-founder of Nonprofit Social Media Nerds, is Josh Hirsch, Director of Mission and Communication at Susan G. Komen, Florida. What's up,
Hello.
Josh? How is it going?
It's going. Today is the last day of school in South Florida, so all those kids in Palm Beach County are celebrating that summer is finally here because nothing's changed because they're
Nothing's
still at
changed.
home.
Yay! I know
Yay. But
Yeah,
yeah,
Taylor Shanklin actually tagged me in a tweet the other day, and she was like, "It's the last day of school, Julia. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Oh, we're weeks away. I don't know. We're weeks away from that, but we're just doing our best, and we're going forward. We're moving forward. We were just talking about how I might have to get a pool, or not like a real pool, but a little, Home Depot pool, because there are no camps, there's no anything, and there's all the beaches are closed and or open but then closed again because too many people have gone to them. So I don't know. Let us know what your summer plans are. That someone actually asked me that the other day on a call. What are your summer plans? It's like, what? Nothing. Like, I don't know. Do people have summer plans? I want to hear about them. Maybe people are working. Maybe people are
yeah.
working again. I'm going to be working. Josh will be working. Kids won't be in school, which will be wonderful. I really can't wait until I stop having to be my daughter's personal assistant for all her Zoom calls and her meetings, because that's currently what I do now. I'm her personal assistant. So what we wanted to do today is just do a really casual recap of the last four sessions. And I think it's so interesting because it's been 5 weeks and so much has changed in those 5 weeks. And when I created this, like when we decided we wanted to do a Facebook Live every Friday in May, the thought behind it was there will be a post pandemic world. I honestly thought that there was going to be a day when someone would come to tell me, okay, it's over and you can get back to normal. I think we might have all thought that. I don't know. Maybe I'm just naive, but I think we're realizing now that's not the case. So post pandemic, pandemic adjacent, whatever you want, however you want to talk about it, I don't think that there's going to be a return to quote unquote normal, whatever that might have been for all of us here. I don't know, Josh, what do you think? Maybe
I
one
think
day,
we
but I don't
are.
know.
I mean, absolutely, certainly one day, but we are so far from
Yeah.
whatever you know it's going to be because we're
Yeah.
still living in the moment. I mean, maybe let's write off 2020. There will be very limited in-person events, especially from a fundraising perspective. Everything is shifting to we are realizing that the business travel that we were doing to go have meetings can now all be done in this little box that we're living. So we're seeing the way that businesses are changing. We're seeing the way that we're changing mission delivery from a nonprofit perspective, because we still know that there are, especially from breast cancer, women and men are still battling breast cancer. They still need to go out and get treatment. So how are we able to deliver, as a nonprofit, those services that we provide, while at the same time realizing things aren't going to change tomorrow? I mean, summer camps, yes, some are saying they're going to be open, but it is going to be so disjointed feeling from anything that these kids have experienced in the past. It's going to be a long summer for everyone. And even still, like, we're hearing the announcements that, you know, the University of Florida 12 university system are planning on going back in the fall. And what does that look like? It's just hard for me to really fathom that, you know, so I went to the University of Florida, and, you know, you had those 500 person lecture halls, your 101 intro classes, you're squeezed in there like sardines. Like, how can you do that in the fall? You can't. So how does that affect from a nonprofit perspective with your fundraising events? You know, as Komen, we are very strong on these major, massive gatherings of fundraising events. And you put 10,000 people, especially when you consider a lot of them have compromised immune systems, it's not a safe thing. And we've had to shift our way of fundraising, the way of shifting of the way we're doing things as a result of this. You know,
absolutely.
It's something that we have to be very cognizant of.
I think what's so interesting about the time that we're in right now is that I have never felt so completely unsure about what the future holds. Not when I graduated college, not when I went to the Peace Corps. I always felt like even in those circumstances where you have no idea what's happening, I was job hunting, or I was going off to a different country, or, you know, I was thinking of when I was pregnant with Isabel, and you have no idea what parenthood's like. You can read about it, you can learn about it, you can know kids, but you have no clue what it's actually like until you do it. And I've been thinking that's exactly where we are right now, except it's even worse because there is no precedent at all. Like, you can't read a book about what it's like to be on the other end of a global pandemic necessarily, not like we are right now. Certainly not, you know, in modern days, in our modern lifetime. But I'm always thinking about how kids especially seem to be really resilient, and maybe I'm just lucky. Colin is a little bit anxious, my little boy, but both of them have adapted so quickly to this new reality. And both of them, while they get sad every once in a while, they are not dwelling on the past. They do not dwell on the past. I curl up like in a fetal position on my bed, you know, and get really upset and get scared and sad and really miss the old ways, the before times, but they don't. They're like, what's going to happen next week? What are we doing this weekend? What's in the future? They're always looking forward. I think that we can learn a lot from the resilience of kids. And I also believe that the nonprofits that have that resilience or have that mindset, you know, rather than simply just lamenting the before times, which the before times were what, 3 months ago? Not 4 months ago. I don't even know. The before times are, you know, depends on where you are in the world, I guess. But I think that planning, and I know I did want to talk about planning today because it's a question that I get all the time. I don't think that you can plan right now for more than a couple weeks or a month out. So actually, Josh, that's a great question for you. And I know we've talked about this before, especially in terms of events. The question I get all the time, we get it in the Facebook group at least once a week. Should we have an event in September? What happens if our virtual event is being held in the fall? Should we move? And it's like, I can't answer that question. I wish that I could answer that question. And my advice when someone asks me that is I say, plan for 3 scenarios, plan for the very best case, plan for the probable case that it's probably not going to happen. And then, you know, try to plan for the worst case, or have like a plan Z for the worst case scenario. But what I would hate to do is tell someone, oh yes, we're all going to be safe in the fall, and then not have, you know, and then have you put down a deposit on a hall or a rental place and then have it not happen. So what's been the plan with Komen events, especially like going the end of the year? Because I know October is a big month for you.
Yeah, October is a very big month for us, and our entire shift has been virtual. All the walks, you know, so Mother's Day, this April-May timeframe is also very big for you know, events for spring, especially when you're looking at those events that are not in sunny South Florida. The weather is nicer at this time of year, so those events have had to shift to being postponed to the fall, and you know, really, they're not going to be in person. So Komen has taken a lot of proactive steps in the way to create new engaging messaging. They've developed a new app. They've developed ways to create opportunities for you to still fundraise, because we need those funds. We need to be able to one day find a cure for breast cancer, so those women and men battling don't have to experience the trouble and their families having to go through it. So it's very difficult. Here in Coleman, Florida, we have a couple activations throughout the summer, and we've had to put pauses on them. We've had to create more virtual opportunities, virtual engagement. We have a big program called our Warriors in Pink program, where these are brand ambassadors that are out there, survivors and metastatic thrivers that are out there in the community as almost heralds for the race for the cure, which is right now scheduled for January 30th, 2021. And they're almost like pillars in the community. And while we're still having that, the opportunities for them to get together is going to be very limited. We usually do a big kickoff party and ways to announce them to the community, and it's just going to be a completely different process. Yes, we've opened up the nominations for it. Those nominations are due July 3rd, but the way that those ambassadors will be engaging with everyone in the community is going to be completely different.
Exactly.
And so let me put on my AFP hat, my Association of Fundraising Professionals hat. One of our largest events each year is National Philanthropy Day, and typically that's the second week of November. And from a fiduciary responsibility, as the board president for my chapter, I cannot sign a contract for a 20 to 30,000 food and beverage minimum to put on an event for 300 people. I just can't do it because I don't feel
300 people. Yeah.
Exactly. So let's take 30 10 tops, put them in a room, and let's have you be there for an hour and a half, schmoozing, eating, recognizing people. Yes, we still need to be able to recognize those philanthropists, and especially now during COVID-19. There's been some amazing, amazing philanthropists that have stepped up from an individual standpoint, from businesses, from foundations, the way that they've really responded to this pandemic we're experiencing. But we can't do that now. I don't feel safe to put people together in a room. I don't feel safe from a financial standpoint to try to recoup those dollars of ticket sales and sponsor activations. It's just not going to be possible. So, we're shifting that to a virtual event as well. This is the mindset we have to be in. Julia and I obviously speak at a lot of different conferences, and all of those have been paused or are now canceled. I was supposed to speak at an event in Philadelphia in August. That has now been pushed back to December.
It's Planet Philanthropy this week.
We'll see if that happens.
Supposed to be Planet Philanthropy. Yeah. Oh, next week, June 6th.
That's a bummer. That was going to be a fun one. Yeah, the Florida Caucus, which is a conglomerate of all the AFP chapters in Florida, hold an annual conference for 400 fundraisers.
Yep.
And it's a great chance, not just from a learning perspective, but networking, seeing your colleagues. And to me, one of the most important parts of being part of a membership organization is learning from your members, learning of what's successful in their organization. And that's the same thing with the Facebook group that Julie and I have. You can go to nonprofitsocialmedianerds.com, which is just the URL redirected into the Facebook group. And all that group is learning from one another. It's growing. It's understanding what it is to be an effective nonprofit. And yes, you might have a problem, or and I say there are no problems. There's opportunities for solution. But having them learn from someone else is really what it's about.
I could not agree more. So I think there's 2 points that I wanted to pull out from our guests that we heard that stuck with me. So we had Tesha McCord-Poe on for our very first installment around virtual events. And I've heard her talk a couple of times. And she always says, when you're evaluating whether or not to do an event virtually, ask about the purpose of why you gather. What's the purpose? If it's fundraising, you could probably do it digitally. If the purpose, like a golf outing, is in-person networking, it's going to be a lot more challenging to take that event virtually, and you might have to rethink it and change it and zhuzh it and do a lot of things to it. But you can't just take your 5-hour chicken dinner gala and all of a sudden put it on Zoom. Like you can't do that. So thinking about why we gather, what's the purpose, what are we trying to do, and how can we still accomplish that maybe in another way, digitally or virtually. And then something that Kirtland said, which I love, and I really want to write a blog post about this when I have some time. Are we going to acknowledge that virtual is not the same. Like, when are we going to acknowledge that virtual is not the same as being in person? Like you just said, you know, there are many ways that we can do our work efficiently, and we can hold meetings and do client work. A lot of my work, I really, except for speaking, I would say 100% of my client work hasn't changed, because I'll do almost all of it virtually, and my courses and my webinars and all of that. So what's changed for me is, you know, sitting in my office all day by myself, of course, with my kids and my husband in the house. But that connection, that human, that talking to people, those shared experiences, and the fun times, you know, the fun non-professional times, like we don't really have those anymore. And I don't know the solution to that, but those are kind of two of my top takeaways. And then in terms of planning, I think we have to acknowledge that plans are completely out the window, because like you just said, Josh, planning for an event in November, that requires getting sponsors and ticket sales now. And are people comfortable getting on a plane? I know that we were talking about the Nonprofit Social Media Summit, which I need to call Adam and Julie, but I really wanted to hold that this year in Boston. If you went last year, it was absolutely amazing. And we had such fantastic speakers. It was the last time John Hayden did a presentation to a large group in public. I mean, it was really like in the top 5 highlights of my career, my professional career, for sure. And I wanted to hold it again so badly, because as much that I do virtually, that in person, there was nothing that could compare to it. And people were saying that to us. They were so happy that they could meet these people that they've been following online, that they could talk to other people. They wanted more networking time. They wanted more white space. They wanted more opportunities to connect with each other, like at meal times or snack time or break time. And we just decided, and thank God we did. I mean, we decided not to have it. It would have been end of August, because trying to sell tickets and sponsorships and get people to get on a plane and get people to feel comfortable renting a hotel room. So that's going to be a huge factor in whether or not you plan an in-person event in 2020. Is there going to be a time when people are going to be comfortable enough to purchase tickets and purchase sponsorships? So, I mean, I think that's huge. We also,
I think this is a great opportunity.
Yeah,
wait, I'm going to cut you off though. Big announcement.
No, it's fine.
The Nonprofit Digital Summit will happen in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
We are making that announcement now. It will happen in person sometime in 2021 at some place. We will be gathering together.
Some place, probably Boston. Let's be real. I want to have it here.
Yeah, Babson College was a fabulous place to work with, great partners, and you will see us in person in 2021. We will be together. We will be learning. We will be sharing. The nonprofit nerds will be there for you.
Yes. Oh, I'm so excited. So that makes me think, I need to get started on that, huh? I need to get started on that. The other thing is,
we got 15 months. 15 months.
But remember back in March when everything was getting canceled, and every single speaking engagement I had moved to the fall, and now we still don't even know, like the big ones. I'm thinking, you know, the 400, 500,000 people gatherings. Those are more likely than not going to happen. You know, I'm thinking a smaller gathering, a smaller training, those might happen, but it's just so hard to know. But 2021, I'm feeling pretty confident that we can get together. And this isn't a 1,000-person conference. It's very intimate. And it's, you know, what do we have? I think 120 was the max we could have at Babson, which I'm fine with. I love that number. But just in terms of an event planner, thinking about, oh man, trying to promote that. We're
not even trying to promote it. Sorry to cut you off.
Sure. Or trying to get speakers. Oh,
not speakers, but sponsors. So we know that sponsors and there's, I don't like the word sponsors. I like partner. Sponsors too much of a transaction. Partners are really what drive engagement. The partners, yes, we like their dollars, but we also like the clout that partners bring, because those partners' name adds credibility to an event. You know, if you have a partner that is well recognized in the community, and whatever your community as you define it, is seen to sign on with this event in some sort of capacity, especially from a financial perspective, well, then you can add more credence to what this event is trying to be. But a partner expects something out of this. Yeah. Yes, we know that they want to just do it out of the goodness of their heart, but they expect something from, I'll use the word transaction because that's what it is, but there really needs to be more. So how is you as a nonprofit, in 2020 or 2021, whenever you may be doing some of the events, because right now we have a poll going on if you are planning a fundraising special event in 2020, and we see that some people are planning in person, some people are planning virtual, and some people aren't planning ones. But what are you going to do to acknowledge those partners, to give value to those partners when they aren't able to be in person necessarily, to shake hands and engage with your supporters, because that's really what they want to get out of it. They want to get their brand in front of your supporters. So there's been some creative things that I've seen. The virtual swag bag is something that has been around for a while. Cool. Especially in like the running community, I've noticed. And a lot of these 5Ks are now going virtual. So what does this virtual swag bag look like? How can you still offer those engagements to your attendees and make your partners happy?
Love that. I'm writing that down. Virtual swag bag.
And there are companies that will provide it. Yeah, I mean, there's companies that will provide it, especially, like I said, from the 5K virtual running world. But, it's things that you can create yourself easily on your own site. Create a landing page that you're then driving attendees, during your event. And once again, your event is most likely not going to be in person. It's going to be, living in these little boxes. But on that landing page, it's a chance for you to, once again, acknowledge your partners, having, hyperlinked logos to their site with promotions that they want to add just specifically for your attendees. And it could be something as simple as, a 10% off coupon for a purchase on their site, or, free 30-minute consultation, whatever it is. It has to be of value to your partner, at the same time, something that can be beneficial for you.
Yeah, the way we have to think about sponsorships, like you said, and partnerships has completely changed. Because I remember when I was a development director planning events, it was all about the table, selling a table, and your board member would buy a table, but it would be a great way for the board member to kind of show off to their friends, or show off the organization to their friends and family, or they'd buy it as a corporation, and then they would bring the whole, they'd bring their whole department to the event. So it was very much needed to be in person, because you could see who came, right? And then you could see who wrote a check and put it in that envelope when you made the ask. So there was all these, the social proof, all of this, a little bit of peer pressure. There was that, do you remember, God, that standardized way of doing events? I think that was called Benavon. That's how I learned fundraising, literally like 20 years ago. Benavon model. I don't think it was called I think it's called Benavon now. I don't know what it was called earlier, but that's how I learned. You did tours of your space. You had donors in person. You had coffee and virtual, like tours with donors. Now I guess you'd have virtual tours, and then you followed up with them personally. And then you'd have these big events where you would ask people for checks, and that's how you'd build your network. And what's interesting now is obviously that has to be completely upended and changed. I think the principles are the same, the principles of relationships and trust, and using your existing network to build your future network. That's always something that we've talked about, that I've talked about, rather than just yelling at a bunch of strangers or purchasing a bunch of ads online or purchasing a billboard or whatever it is. Using your existing network, I think, is always the most effective way. Something that I know we talked a lot about fundraising. So we had Tom Ahern on. We're so lucky. We were just like fangirling Tom Ahern and Nick Byrne. And that conversation, I've actually gone back and rewatched it a couple of times. I think it's probably the most tactical of everything, that all the other sessions, in terms of Tom is actually telling you this is exactly how to do it. And then Nick is giving you some specific advice for how to use Facebook. But I wonder, are we in the surge? Are we still in the surge right now? I don't know. I have no idea. Like, what do you think, Josh?
I mean, it's hard to tell. Like anything
So
is so
hard
up
to
in the air.
tell.
Like you said, it's hard to plan, which is a great segue to our question from Alex. Alex is in Boston. And Alex said their May event was an in-person event for their anniversary. In May, it had to be rescheduled to September. They're saying that they may have to pivot and make it virtual, which I would do. Like, it's not may have to, it's like I would make this a virtual event. They're asking what platforms are nonprofits using to host virtual fundraising events and how are they doing? So my question back to you, Alex, is what are your goals from this event? So are you looking to do an ask? Are you looking to do a silent auction? Are you looking to do a mission moment for your organization? What are those goals from it? And let that help drive the technology. So if you're looking to do, let's say, a silent auction, because we know an auction is a great way to generate revenue for your event, use, there's a lot of different platforms out there that you can use.
Yep.
And I'm not going to not name anyone specifically, because once again, it really comes back to what your needs are and your budget. But obviously open up that silent auction 7 to 10 days before the event itself. That way you're generating buzz, you're generating revenue. And that way, once the date is there of your event, then you have, can say, oh, we've already raised $15,000 towards our goal of 45,000 for the night. Thank you so much. At the same time, is it going to be a mixture of pre-recorded video? Are you going to use, live streaming? Really, what that all looks like will help you determine the technology choices for that.
Yep.
I hope I answered your question, Alex.
Hey, Alex. So in Boston, as you know, which is where I am, we're in phase 1 of reopening, and we're taking things very cautiously. I don't see an in-person event, a large in-person event happening in September in Boston because of how slowly we're taking things. And also because we are the number 3 state behind New York and New Jersey in terms of new cases and deaths. So I think that, I agree with what our governor is doing, even though he is a Republican. I agree with him. He's taking things cautiously and proceeding maybe a little slower than people would want, but I think it's a good thing. So what I would do, there are so many platforms, and it's like Josh says, you have to figure out, is it going to be a dance-a-thon? Is it going to be a concert? Is it going to be an auction? Is it going to be, a trivia night? What is the event going to be? And this is not just like a plug for our group, but this question has been asked so many times with so many amazing answers and examples. So I would go into the group, nonprofitsocialmedianerds.com, go into the group and go and search virtual events, or just scroll down the questions page, because a lot of people have been talking about this. This is a huge topic. I personally have taken events on Hopin, Hopin, which was an awesome platform. Whatever platform Classy Collaborative is using, I need to ask them because it's amazing. They're doing such a great job organizing it from a speaker perspective, but also I registered for several of their sessions. Like Voulay is speaking. Josh, you got to register. Joan Gary is closing it out. Oh, it's going to be so amazing. Whatever platform they're using is very easy to use and not like a Zoom registration, and looks really cool. And I like the design functionality. So I would just go to classy.org/collaborative, but there is really is based on your goal. You could have something as simple as a Facebook Live and put a donate button on it and raise money that way, depending. So I would totally go into the group, see what platforms other people are using. What's that platform that everybody was talking about for auctions? I can't remember.
There's Give Lively. There's
Give
One
Lively.
Cause. One Cause is
Does
what?
QGive do auctions?
I think
they do text. They do mobile giving.
They do have mobile giving. I know that QGive has peer-to-peer linked in directly with Facebook ability, which is key. If you are, so let's talk about what events are going to look like. Well, peer-to-peer is going to be huge. If you are not already currently doing any sort of peer-to-peer fundraising, what better way to do social good while social distancing than peer-to-peer fundraising? And being able to still do good, because that's at heart, your donors, your supporters want to do that.
Yeah.
How can you activate them to fundraise on your behalf? And if you've never, tiptoed into the waters of peer-to-peer, well, now is a great time to do that. My recommendation though, whatever platform you select to do peer-to-peer, have the ability to integrate it with Facebook. That, Facebook fundraising is so simple. My birthday is next week.
Did you hit your goal?
I've increased my goal like 3 or 4 times at this
Yay!
point already.
Awesome.
Yeah, and so each year for my birthday, I do a Facebook fundraiser. The past few years, I've done it for Susan G. Komen in Florida, and I always start my goal small. And I start at $200. I put something very tangible, saying.
And then you hit it in like 30 seconds.
Exactly, and then you hit in 30 seconds. But this $200 will help fund 2 mammograms. Yeah. And being able to sit there and easily put out, say, hey, I'm doing a Facebook fundraiser. Now you're only limited on the number of people you can invite to an event, which is 50 people. And I think I may have found a couple ways around that, but you're limiting what the people you invite, but keeping that event active so people can easily donate, and then engaging them and thanking them live real time as quickly as possible really does make a difference too. Mm-hmm. So my birthday fundraiser, I think, is up to almost $700 now. In about 3 days that we've done that. So that's fabulous. So if you're so inclined, please support my Facebook fundraiser for my 40th birthday and help relieve the financial burden that women and men battling breast cancer experience. There's my plug. But going back to, but that's peer-to-peer fundraising. That's all that is me, as the organization, I don't care about the donors. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but I care about me as a fundraiser. Because those people that are donating to my birthday fundraiser are donating because of me. They might not necessarily have a connection to the cause, but they have a connection to me. So as that nonprofit, I want to engage me as the fundraiser. I know, and that's what people have such issues with, is the access to donor data with Facebook fundraisers. Yes, we love to be able to thank and acknowledge our donors. Our finance department wants to be able to properly categorize and attribute those donations. But in this world we're living in and the technology, it's not always available to us. But care about that person who started that birthday fundraiser. Care about that one that started a fundraiser in honor of someone. Yeah. They are the ones who are the most committed. Yes, it's nice to get that $10 or that $100 donation from someone, but they don't have the direct connection to your organization. That fundraiser does, and that's who you should be engaging with.
Yep. I think that the entire way we think about fundraising, in one sense, it's going to go back to old school relationships and almost old school, like the copy, the story, direct mail, because there's no direct mail right now. I never agree with Denise Casement, by the way, but she did post a LinkedIn post that was really awesome. And she said, where are all my direct mail appeals at? What's happening? Why is no one asking me via direct mail? So I think that we're going to go back to some more traditional elements of fundraising, but also we have to understand, like you just said, Josh, that we're living in a consumer-driven environment. I mean, consumers, they want things now. You want something on Amazon, you order it on Grubhub, you get Instacart, Netflix knows who you are and the last 100 things you've watched. Everything's about personalization and what I want right now. And that's why I think these tools, I think these tools are going to really explode in the future, like the TikTok donation sticker and the Instagram donation sticker and the Facebook donate button, because they're donor driven. They're not nonprofit driven. But that's also where nonprofits kind of get a little uncomfortable, because we can't control the whole donor journey. We can't have all our fingers in the pie of everything. We don't really necessarily know, is someone raising money for us on TikTok? We don't even know. So I think we have to embrace both sides of the fundraising spectrum and understand that some of these tools, we can still raise money for our missions, but we're not going to be able to control every single step of the process. But then some of these other tools are still going to be really useful. So I am so excited to see more data coming out on what kind of fundraising has been effective. I know that Stephen Screen and the Better Fundraising Company and Mark Phillips of Blue Frog Fundraising, they've been actually conducting a lot of research, unfortunately, in the UK. I want to hear more about the United States, but in the UK, saying that people are giving, they're giving digitally, they're also giving via direct mail. We're in the surge right now. We don't know when that might drop off. We don't know when people are going to stop. We don't know when philanthropy might decrease. We don't, we're seeing a big surge right now. I think the thing that, and I don't want to go too much longer, but the thing that's going to be interesting for me is that, especially in America, every state is in such a different place. Like Massachusetts, New York City is in such a different place than, rural Kansas or Wyoming or places where no one lives, So I think that what we're going to see in terms of the workforce, in terms of volunteering, in terms of unemployment, in terms of the event planning, I just think it's going to be really based on your locality, where you are, state by state, if you're comfortable, what you're comfortable doing, what you're comfortable planning, and your locality. Some places are just being hit really hard right now by coronavirus, and some other places are not being hit as hard. So I don't know. That's not very helpful, but that's really that's kind of my speculation for the future is we need to focus locally. If we're a national organization, it's more challenging, but I think for a lot of our audience, they're very local. But to stay hyper local, to stay focused on your audience and to stay focused on your mission and just always be conveying to me why you matter. One other point, and then Josh, I will let you wrap it up. Wait, what's my other point? Okay. People are still giving to the causes that they care about. Allison Fine has an amazing newsletter. She's running for Congress in New York City, and not New York City, New York. And she has an amazing email newsletter. She just sends out links every day, plain text links, and they're so amazing. And she was saying that people are still giving to causes they care about. I can tell you all the causes I care about. You can see behind me, probably you'll discern some of the causes I care about. I'm still giving to those causes. That doesn't change. I'm still giving to domestic violence prevention. I'm still giving to sexual assault prevention. I'm still giving to, abortion rights and female, empowerment. I'm still giving to those organizations. So just because your mission is not COVID related directly, don't stop asking, don't stop communicating. That's something that in a post-pandemic world, I hope a pandemic adjacent, we also need a term, because we're not going to be post-pandemic until we have a vaccine. That's just my opinion. But in a pandemic next normal, we need to not just pretend the dust is going to settle and everything's going to go back to normal. So how can we continue communicating the value of our mission in this next normal? That's what I'm trying to say.
My one bit of advice, and then we can wrap this up, is don't stray from your mission. Mission creep at this time is not going to be effective for you. Just because you don't serve the homeless, or you don't provide meals, or you're not, providing shelter, that doesn't mean that you should try to go after those dollars just because that is what people are funding right now. They'll be seeing right through that from a funder perspective, that your mission doesn't align with their funding priorities. And just because that's the hot dollar right now and you're trying to go after it, it's not the right way to go. Stay in your lane as an organization, stay true to who you are, continue to tell your organization's story. And, as Julia said, your supporters will continue to be by your side. They might not be able to give in the same way as they previously could, but continue to show that you matter to them. Mm-hmm. This is a chance for you to be stewardship rock stars. Pick up the phone. Yes, we still have those. And just say, hey, how are you? Do a wellness check-in. Let them know that you're not calling to ask for money. You're just calling to say, we care about you and want to make sure that you're okay. Other ways that you can engage them, and this is next level stuff, is create a task force of those most engaged donors. Mm-hmm. Reach out to them and say, hey, you're one of our top fundraisers. You're someone that really supports our organization strong. Clearly, you have a much stronger desire than just writing a check. Would you like to be part of this task force to help us reimagine what does the next 6 months look like for our organization? They will take so much pride in knowing that you value their opinion, that they will come around to you from a donor perspective eventually, even more so because of the way that you value their input. Yep. That's what I'll leave us with for today.
Yay. Well, thank you. This has been really amazing. Thank you, Josh, for being an incredible co-host. Thank you to all of our guests. And I can't tell you when we're next going to do a Facebook Live. I don't know. but maybe we'll wait a few weeks and then we'll see what is happening in the world and where we are and where we land and what's going on, because anything can happen. But you can always find us in the Facebook group. 10,000. Are we at 11,000 yet?
We're at like 10,600, I think, last I saw. So yeah, we're
Yay.
growing. We're almost up to 11,000.
God, amazing. That's amazing. And the group is really well behaved and asks really great questions and gives amazing support and answer and insight every single time I check it. So nonprofitsocialmedianerds.com, you'll get access to the group, check out the conversations, and we'll be doing a lot more of these, and we'll be in there all the time answering your questions. So thank you so much, and we'll see you again soon.